Hi guys, today I'm going to go over how I use still images and capture still frames from videos and then put them all together to make them usable for costuming. The basic things to remember when you're looking for reference for costumes is how detailed are you going in the costume. If you're doing something really stinking detailed, like is this stitch in the right place kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you're going and getting really good reference from the source. If you're doing something that's like a mashup between, a Sailor Moon and the TARDIS, probably not as applicable for having really good reference. That being said, you still do need reference so that you make sure you have the right number of boxes on the square bit of the TARDIS, or however you're doing that. So without any further ado, to the computer! And welcome to the digital world. For getting references, some of my favorite ways is just Google searches or Google image searches, but you need to be careful on finding what your reference is from. Like, this is obviously some pretty awesome fan art, so you want to make sure that when you're looking at stuff, you do find something that's from the actual reference you're trying to pull. Another place you can find is if you're in a community kind of like Tumblr or on a bunch of blogs that do post stuff for you. They end up doing a lot of your research for you, although you will come up with some really weird stuff that has nothing to do with what you're looking for. Like, that doesn't actually help me much. The other places that are really good to look is if you have forums, whether they're about the single costume or character that you're working on presently, like this is a forum for How to Train Your Dragon, or whether it's a costume forum like the RPF forums, and it is a really good reference to go and look at. If you do a lot of costuming, check it out. But once you find kind of what you want to use, like say, I want this poster, so I'll just be like, yo, I want this poster. Give me this poster. So I'll go to the original site, whichever this site happens to be, and I'll be like, yo, I want this poster, and you just, save it. So, yay! We'll just save that to my desktop and call that good. And then the other way that you can get references is if you have video reference. I have already done a YouTube video on how I find and put all my video reference together, so just click where my mouse is presently going around. There's a link there. But what I do is I go through my video reference and I'll still frame through it so that I find a pose that's not blurry with motion blur, and I'll be like, yes, I want this because I need reference of this part of the costume. So I'll save off a still image of that, and I'll go through the entire thing and be like, ooh, back of the costume, let's get some of that. Yeah, that looks perfect. The big thing that you want to do is actually zoom in here and try and see if it is blurred or not, because that does make a huge difference. But once you have all of your still frames, like I have these, I take them into a video or a image editing software, like say Photoshop. You can use MS Paint, anything, just as long as it reads the file that you're doing. Because you're not doing anything particularly complicated, you're just cropping. And I just crop it down to just the character I'm working on, so that it saves me size on my hard disk, and it saves me space with what I'm looking at as far as where my eyes are going. It also will make more sense once I get to spreads. So I just do this for all the clips that I'm taking, and you can see here that these are pretty good quality because I have a good high-res image, but it still does get pixelated at a point. What is nice about some of the... No, cancel. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Thank you. What's nice about some of the posters is how high-res they are. Because I just cropped that down, but you can see how this is just a much higher res than some of the other screenshots that I took of the video. So, save that. No, I don't want... Save it. Thank you. So once I have all of this cropped and saved, what I'll do is I'll take my cropped ones and I'll put them in a folder called cropped. And what this cropped folder does is it has all of the different ones that are just hiccup in it. So if I'm going through, I don't have a bunch of extra stuff to look at. It's also a much smaller folder than if I had the entire screenshot in, so it's saving me space, which is nice. It also helps when I'm making spreads, and these are what I call spreads. They're essentially a single JPEG that is everything that I'm focusing on for that one thing. This is for fabric, and I wanted to see what the texture of the fabric was in the different places and how it's working and where seams are and those kind of things. So that's what I was focusing with just this spread. I have another spread that is just what the, let's do a helm. Just what the helmet is. And it's just cut down to the helmet, so I don't have any extra information I need to go over. This makes it a lot easier to print out, because it'll fit on one piece of paper much easier. It also gives you a much higher fidelity, because you can kind of go around like this really easily. The bad thing is you can't really do a spread if you have, everything on it. This is a spread that's pretty much that entire cropped folder down onto one single JPEG image, and it's stinking huge. It takes forever to load and forever to try and move around in and do anything with, which is kind of annoying. So that's the downside to doing a spread, is you can get really big images that, while being nice, because you can just go like this around on it and go, oh, that's what that thing's doing. It is ridiculously huge in both like its actual size and how much size it's taking up on your disk. So how I actually make those spreads is I put all of the pictures of that one thing that I'm working on in Photoshop, and they're all on different layers. You don't have to use Photoshop for this, but it is easier if you have some way that you can move them about like that. And it doesn't really matter where they line up, you just want to kind of condense them so that you can print it off easier and look at the different parts of the reference a little bit easier. So that's how I do that, and then I put a base layer of a dark gray, just so that I don't have big white swatches in the background distracting me. It makes it a little bit nicer to look at, but that's like a very little thing. And then I can either print this out or just save it as a JPEG and use it how I will. So that's how I deal with still frame reference. If you have any questions down in the comments, please subscribe. It's there. And then there's also a Patreon link there if you want to help me. Once again, thank you DreamWorks. Don't sue me. I'm using your stuff for a costume because I'm a fan. Anyways, thanks.